Beards and Flicks, baby.
Okay, guys, welcome back to Beards and Flicks. My name is Brad Johnson. I'm joined, as always, with my best friend, Mikey D.
I'm just Mikey D today. No Justice League.
It's February. Welcome. It's Black History Month.
It's finally February.
It's finally February.
January is always the longest month of the year. I don't know why.
January has been a long year. And we're glad that you're here with us in February, and it's Black History Month, and we're talking about, there's so many good things to talk about Black history, and there's so many good movies, right, to talk about for Black history. So today we're doing a supersized episode. We are going to be talking about the 1992 movie Malcolm X, starring Denzel Washington, directed by Spike Lee, and the 2014 movie Selma, starring David Oyelowo? I don't know, and we're probably butchering his name.
Yeah, if anybody knows how to pronounce it, we apologize. We don't butcher names on purpose.
We don't, yeah.
I blame the public school system.
Directed, what is her name?
Ava DuVernay.
Okay.
She's amazing.
Both movies are talking about the same subject. Very different approaches to either of the movies. Major time difference between these two movies.
Well, Selma talks specifically about a march,
MLK,
and a reason for the march.
And the march,
yeah,
and the emotions and days and information leading up to the march, and what he was trying to do, working with President Johnson and all that stuff.
Whereas Malcolm X is it encompasses the full arc of his life. We get flashbacks to his childhood, his upbringing before he became Malcolm X. His time incarcerated, and then, the man he became that we know.
Yeah, right. Two very influential men, two majorly powerful leaders in the Black communities.
Right.
And they both accomplished a lot of things. So that's why it's a supersized episode. We're going to talk about two movies at the same time. So stick with us, hang on. But first, Mike wants to get into some other stuff.
Yeah, so Spike Lee is the director of Malcolm X. And we just covered one of his films a couple of weeks ago, Inside Man. And even before that, on our bonus features episode, we talked about, the Mount Rushmore of the film industry.
And how you would put him in on your list of that.
I'm driving from Dallas to come here, and I'm thinking, what about the Mount Rushmore of fast food?
Wow.
What would you put on that?
Okay. I have immediate answers for this.
Taco Bell's probably on that list.
You know what? Yeah. Okay. Yes. I know.
Quitting this podcast. I swear to God.
I know your feelings about Taco Bell. However, it would be like if I had so top four, I guess, because there's Mount Rushmore's four.
This is your list, and I'm going to give you mine. So if you want to put Taco Bell, I'm not going to judge.
Okay. My list would be like Taco Bell, Whataburger. Sonic. I love several items from Sonic.
So I do too, actually. Yeah, I'm not going to hate on that. So there's
three. And then any Asian fast food.
Okay.
Like Peking, which is a local place,
right.
or like Panda Express or something.
Panda Express.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
a good array of restaurants.
Well, tell me yours.
Fast food. So Whataburger, hands down, is on my list. That's going to be number one forever.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A is on that list.
Okay.
Sonic is a good. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go another burger joint. I'm gonna go Brahms.
Oh, okay.
I've loved Brahms since I was a kid.
Dude, Brahms burgers are good.
Yeah, I guess they're probably known more for their desserts.
Yeah.
Because when you drive by the little marquee, they always have a special on desserts.
Yeah. Also, you can go to the drive-thru and get a gallon of milk if you want.
Which is crazy.
Right?
So when I was a kid and I found out you could actually grocery shop for dairy products in a burger joint, I was like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And you had to have the little hardwood floors. I feel special walking in there.
Plus, they had the awesome ice cream.
Word.
Yeah.
The ice cream is something else, man.
The ice cream is good.
So Whataburger, Chick-fil-A, Brahms, and actually I'm gonna go.
And you said Sonic, right?
I said Sonic.
Yeah,
you're right.
That's four.
Okay, well I'm taking Sonic off then. So Whataburger, Brahms, Chick-fil-A, and I'm gonna go with Domino's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
And you know what? I wasn't always a Domino's guy. I notoriously grew up on Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
And then Domino's changed their recipe maybe about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've been a Domino's guy
I
ever
liked
since.
Domino's as far as the pizza delivery companies go. I like their thin crust, and I like to get like as many vegetables as I can.
Oh,
like a deluxe type pizza.
Right. They call it Supreme, I think.
Yeah, maybe it's a Supreme or whatever it is. Yeah, Extravaganza or something like that. I don't know what it's called.
Supreme Extravaganza.
Supreme. Yeah. But I love that thin crust. Anyways, wow, that was a cool tangent.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about this drive in, and I was like, Mount Rushmore, you could do that on basically any topic.
For a lot of things, yeah. Mount Rushmore of, clothing stores, or Mount Rushmore of bands you like, or whatever.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Like musicians, artists.
Like top 4 bands or whatever.
Oh, could you do a Mount Rushmore of the seasons? Ooh, I bet you couldn't.
You like broke my brain.
I was like, let me see if I can trip him up.
There's 4 seasons. Unless you live in Texas, and we have like way more than 4 seasons.
So I used to work at one of the news stations here in Tyler, and I had one of my coworkers who said, we don't have seasons, we have fronts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's normally hot.
Yeah.
And if it's cold, like there's still like a level of humidity, like today.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool out. And
tomorrow's gonna be really cold.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, another front.
And like last week was really cold.
Yeah.
I've always said that like Texas was absent the day they were handing out weather conditions, and we kind of got like the what was left over.
I like that. It's like the scene from B-Movie where they go to get their jobs.
Exactly.
It's just like that. And Texas is like, I'm sleeping in today.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
How many times have we talked about B-Movie on this podcast?
For a movie that you don't even like, we talked about it a lot.
I know. Jerry Seinfeld and animated B-Movie.
You don't like anyway.
Crazy.
So one thing about the pizza, one last thing, and then we can move on.
Right on.
So you talked about you like the thin crust.
Yeah.
I do it too. And my dad shares the same sentiment. He's like, if you get pizza, it's for the toppings.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not for all the bread.
You can eat more if you get thin crust.
Also that.
Yes.
And I get mine Brooklyn style.
Ooh.
So it's cut up in squares.
Yes.
And I love that juxtaposition of circle and then squares.
Okay. I didn't know that was called Brooklyn style. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I noticed it when you start ordering online, it says Brooklyn style.
Oh, okay.
So one time I rarely do this. Normally I get it delivered because I'm privileged.
Wow.
But one time I was like, I'm going to be a peasant.
He means that sarcastically.
I do. Or do I?
Or does he?
So this is probably one of the few times since living in Dallas that I actually like went to the place and picked it up. And the lady, they show you the pizza sometimes just to make sure it's yours.
Yeah.
And this woman, she says, oh, I've never gotten it like that before. How is it? I'm like, it's a pizza.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the flavor because you cut it in squares. Now, it does change how you eat it, obviously.
Yeah, a little bit.
I like to go from the little mini triangles because they're like the crust ends.
Okay. And
they don't have as much topping.
I go when I get the typically that's how I get my pizza is the Brooklyn style, the thin crust, like extravaganza, whatever
Supreme
it's
called.
Extravaganza, all the toppings.
Yeah.
And I go like from the outside in, so I'll go around the entire.
Right.
I get a medium sized.
Okay.
And I will eat the entire thing.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
That's why I look like I do.
Facts. I still call it runaway. Fat facts.
Fact fats.
That's why I still call this runaway.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it runaway forever now.
Runaway.
Runaway.
Ronaway? I can't hear you apparently.
Oh.
My ears are still stopped up from when I had coronavirus.
Oh, you may still have it.
I had tons of
You had tons of Rona?
I had tons of Rona. No, I had tons of congestion. Anyways, wow, deep dives and tangents.
We talked about doing Deadpool months ago for this month because it released in February.
Right. We saw it together with a couple friends.
Right. And, we obviously agreed that let's do that in the month that it came out.
That's what we're going to do, yeah.
And then when we did the bonus features episode, the 2020 recap, the more I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, we've got Martin Luther King Day in January.
Plus, 2020 was so big with Black Lives Matter.
Right. So it just felt, it stirred something in me.
Yeah.
And it bothered me that we were going to skip, not that we were going to skip over it, but I guess it hadn't dawned on either of us.
Yeah.
And it should have. And so the more I thought about it, it was like, we should definitely recognize Black History Month.
Absolutely.
Because there are so many prominent Black historical figures that get overlooked.
Not only that, it's just, it fits for our podcast because you and I have both talked about the race relations and how you and I are different, but we're not really different.
It's just that you're tall and I'm short.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Skin color does not matter.
Right.
I think racism is just ignorance.
Yeah.
I hate racism.
The fact that you eat the pizza the same way I do, it probably means that you're really Black.
I probably am.
Yeah.
I like Black culture a lot, and I love Black culture food.
You really do, though.
I do.
Yeah. It's probably one of the reasons this works so well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I approach you with no judgment.
Yeah.
As I always have. And the same from you.
You're one of the few,
except for Taco Bell.
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's fine. That's not going to divide us.
We're not going to let it divide us.
You're one of the few white friends that I have that if you have a question about Black history, culture, or just Black people in general, like I'm like arms open, welcoming you to ask that question because I want you to understand, like our perspective. Just and understand what we've gone through, what our fight is.
Right.
And you know what our fight is. You posted something on Facebook probably a month ago, and I can't remember what it was now. We don't need to look it up, but I remember reading it and then I commented, I said, welcome to the fight. Because whatever you wrote, it was like, oh, you're joining the fight with us.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but ever since, what was it, the murders last year,
the Breonna Taylor and then the George Floyd.
And I didn't really know a lot of information about it, and I would just approach you and just say, I would text you or we'd talk about it when you come into town or whatever, and just have you help me understand.
Right.
And I'll never understand.
Right.
But I want to understand as much as I can.
And I can give you insight so at least you kind of know where we're coming from as Black people.
Right.
So it's cool that you don't have to necessarily understand.
Yeah.
Because you can come to me and like I said, I can give you insight, I can give you my perspective.
Insight is really all I need. I just need to know how this affects you
think about
and your community.
It's hard to join a fight if you're not informed.
Exactly.
Like why would I pick a side in anything, any fight, if I don't know what's going on, what it's about?
Exactly.
So that's why it's so important for not just you, but white people that are curious and want to know how to get involved.
Right.
If you have Black people in your life that you can trust, on that level, then go and ask them questions.
Ask the hard questions. Have the hard conversations.
Definitely have those conversations.
Have the nights where you stay up till 2 a.m. drinking whiskey and just talking about stuff.
Absolutely.
Which we've done several times.
We're notorious for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cool that we're talking about this right now because the movies we're talking about today, there are the white people that came alongside the Black movement in the Selma movie. Mm-hmm. And I loved that. Yeah. I love seeing that. Even got killed for it.
Right.
And even though I'm not supporting violence, I'm just saying like those white people, they died for that cause.
Right. Yeah.
That one priest or pastor guy.
Yeah, man, that was a hard scene to watch.
That was a hard scene to watch.
They just joined the fight.
Yeah.
And I think at that point they were having that conversation of we went to the bridge.
Yeah,
and Martin didn't.
Martin decided to turn around and walk away.
And I want to talk about that too because I talked to my dad about that specific scene.
Okay.
But they might have actually died in the moment thinking we did this for nothing because we didn't even actually get to walk.
Yeah.
Because they got to the bridge and then the initial opposition this time opened the streets.
Right.
And for me,
that was so emotional.
I thought, oh, this is a trap though.
I thought that too at first. Because, they're going to let them walk through and then they're going to ambush them or whatever. But they just ended up not doing it.
So leading up to that, when you see the camera pans, you see the mass of people on the bridge.
It was a beautiful shot.
That was emotional and beautiful, you're right.
It was like a crane shot.
Yeah.
It had for a long time, it had the name of the bridge.
Edmund Pettus.
And it was like the slow reveal of the sea of people in that one lane, or those 2 lanes or whatever. And it like in the depth of field, like in the far back of the shot, it was like blurry.
Yeah.
But you could still see the masses that were coming. It was such a beautiful shot.
So you talk about in the very back kind of being blurry.
Yeah.
I noticed that a few times in this movie.
Yep.
So I think that had to have been done for a visual aesthetic.
Well, if you think about it from a film standpoint, right? The movie's based in the mid to late 60s.
Right.
Okay. Not a lot of film lenses, not a lot of film equipment that was being used. Like it's kind of basic.
Yeah.
Not to use a negative term,
right,
but like
right.
You know what I'm saying. And so like we were talking about this off air. The colors that were chosen for this movie, it's difficult to photograph Black people,
right?
Because there's dark skin tones, and especially when they're in contrast with a white person or whatever,
right?
It's difficult to get those skin tones correct.
And in that bridge scene, it looks like it's in like the middle of the day.
In the middle of the day,
so the sun looks like it's at its highest, right above.
So beautiful. I mean, very serious scene. But the way that they shot the whole movie is they used they kind of like upped the saturation a little bit. and maybe overexpose it a little bit so that those skin tones would be very clearly visible. And the majority of the cast that we're going to be seeing in this movie is black.
And there are different shades of black. So
exactly.
So that's
skin
why
tones.
they would raise the saturation. Because they in that scene they cut to different people, obviously different shades of black, and
a little bit of sepia tone to it too, that makes it make the skin tones look a little maybe pop a little bit more.
Right.
But I kept saying when I was watching this, it's beautifully shot. Like I love the way this movie was shot.
Right.
So different than Malcolm X.
Yeah.
I mean, like night and day different than Malcolm X.
I agree. I mean, obviously there's a 22-year difference.
Exactly.
That when they were shot.
Exactly.
But
and Spike Lee's direction and skills are completely different than Ava. What else has she done?
So Ava, hold on. So she's one of those new up and coming directors, writers, producers, and majority of her work has been African American based.
Right.
She's actually the first black woman to win an award for the Sundance Film Festival. It was 2012. It was her second feature.
Okay.
But she's the first black woman to direct a $1 million grossing film. It was A Wrinkle in Time.
She did A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, she directed that movie.
My son loves that movie.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, very emotional movie.
Again.
It deals with family drama, and it's super sad in some spots.
It is.
And in fact, Remy and I both totally just cried in that movie. We watched it this summer.
Nice.
This past summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hey, but she's from Long Beach.
Long Beach!
Inside joke, sorry guys.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah, she's basically like a modern cinematic civil rights activist, filmmaker.
Awesome.
But she's also gonna take on The New Gods, which is a DC Comics of the same title, which I've never heard of.
Okay.
But she's directing that. It's supposed to be coming out, I guess, in the next couple of years.
Okay.
Depending on filming availability because of COVID and all that.
Right.
She directed that documentary that I recommended to you, The 13th, on Netflix.
Oh, yes. I need to watch that.
Yeah, so that's, it's an in-depth look at the prison system and how it was designed to keep black people incarcerated, impoverished, and enslaved. So it's not one of those, hey, guys, party movie night at my place, let's watch this.
Yeah.
But it's definitely one that, if you're interested in black history and just American history, period, because at the end of the day, this is black history, but it's also American history.
Absolutely.
All of this.
Absolutely.
So it's very important to watch and be educated.
Yeah.
Educate yourselves, because you have to get to a point where you want to seek answers for yourself after you've gained enough knowledge. So,
what's that quote where it's like, how can you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been?
You come from, yeah.
Yeah, or
exactly.
where you come from, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that quote, because it's very true.
Yeah.
So, but that's basically the, she also did When They See Us, which is about the 5 young black kids from Harlem who were wrongfully accused from this horrific attack in Central Park. And of course it was racially driven. And there was actually a special on it on Netflix. There was a movie.
That's what I knew it sounded familiar.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the kind of projects that Ava DuVernay is bringing to the forefront, just bringing awareness to the fact that even today and in present day, we're still being mistreated as black people and being unfairly judged and criticized.
Okay. Since we're already talking about Selma, let's go ahead and talk about what was happening in 2014 cinematically.
Yeah, so a lot of big movies, and I think most of this list, I saw all of it. I'm pretty sure you did too. Whiplash.
Oh my God, that movie.
So by the way, what I do normally, listeners, when I do the biggest movies of the year, usually it's like a link to IMDb, the biggest 50. And I probably gave you about 20 on this list.
Oh, nice.
So I'm just gonna ring them off because they're all so good.
Let's go.
So Whiplash, Birdman, Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal, not the X-Men character, unfortunately. Gone Girl, the first John Wick. Snowpiercer with Chris Evans, which now is a TV show.
Yeah.
And there's also a rumor that that's a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory somehow.
What?
Yeah, it's a YouTube video that I haven't watched yet.
Wow, that's a mind breaker.
Right? The first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
Interstellar, American Sniper, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, X-Men Days of Future Past, Neighbors, the Lego Movie, Edge of Tomorrow, The Theory of Everything with not Charlie
Simon
Redmayne.
Pegg. Right? Oh, no.
Eddie Redmayne.
Yes.
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking,
Thank you, yes.
Yeah.
Grand Budapest Hotel, which you've mentioned a few times.
Great movie.
The first Maze Runner, which was the best one.
Maze Runner?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one. I think we talked about this before.
Yeah, we have. The Equalizer, the first one.
Oh, Denzel.
Chef.
John Favreau. Yep.
The Judge with RDJ.
That's a great movie.
I love it. Yeah.
God, yes.
And
Robert
then
Duvall too.
Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
They're both so good in that.
Yeah.
and then Godzilla, which kind of kicked off the...
Oh, the Bryan Cranston Godzilla. Oh,
Yeah.
that new cinematic universe of that. Oh.
So quick story, I was talking to some friends the other day about the King of the Monsters and all this is coming up, the Godzilla vs. Kong, and this, you know...
And the Kong Skull Island Netflix series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was saying she had never seen any of those. So I was like, you need to watch King of Monsters.
Yeah.
And she's like...
Before the first one?
Well, so she asked me, she said, do I need to see Godzilla first? She's like, I was like, you don't really need to.
Not really.
She said, give me a 2-sentence synopsis. I said, well, Bryan Cranston runs around half the movie, you know, warning everybody, and then he dies.
Yeah.
And then it's monsters versus humans. That's pretty much it.
With Wanda and what's his name?
Pietro Maximoff. Yeah. Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah. Two fantastic actors. Yeah.
Speaking of the latest episode of WandaVision came out. I didn't watch it yet.
I have heard so many good things about it.
I heard this was the game-changing episode we've been waiting for.
This is like the turn it on its ear episode.
Yeah. This is the first one in color, right?
Imagine, like, listeners, if you haven't watched WandaVision yet on Disney Plus, we highly recommend it. If you are understanding the Marvel Cinematic Universe and you know all those movies, you'll really understand this show, especially their relationship. And I want to say that she's very powerful. Her powers are super strong.
To me, she's the most powerful character in the MCU.
I mean, you saw what she did in Endgame. To him.
Right.
To
Thanos.
Yeah. And like, what was the line? He's like, I don't even know who you are, and she was like, you will.
But you will.
I was like, woo, you know, such a great moment. Just goosebumps right now. But like this show, it's so weird. There's like acorns.
Oh.
And they like the wind blows them around on the rooftop.
I thought we were under attack. Red Dawn all
She's
over
here.
again.
Yeah. Okay. This show really showcases her powers and what she can do, even when she like has a headache. Like something happens, like the kitchen was like going crazy. I have heard a rumor that she might be one of the villains.
Yeah, I've been hearing that rumor.
Like her powers or something.
In the Doctor Strange sequel, I heard she's going to be the villain.
I also heard that this is the show that's going to bring the X-Men into the MCU because of its connection with the people that are watching her.
Oh yeah.
What's it called? It's not S.H.I.E.L.D.
Sword. Yeah.
Which
is its own acronym.
That's an X-Men. I think that's in the X-Men universe. And I heard that Magneto might be one of the villains in this show.
Oh, in the show? Interesting.
And they're talking about casting rumors and all this stuff. It's super exciting.
I'm excited.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I've heard that because at the end of episode 3, she was pregnant with twins.
Yep.
And there's rumors that the kids are Wiccan, Billy, whatever his name is, who has like magical powers. So now they're saying some of the stuff that's happening is him, even in the womb, already his powers have manifested.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I think I know we're not totally talking about Black History Month right now, but
hey, this is a supreme. What do we call the pizza?
Dive? Oh, supersized episode.
No, we called the pizza Supreme
Extravaganza.
So we're going to talk about a lot of other things probably as well.
I think that this whole neighborhood that they're in is just in her brain.
Yeah. So here's what I kind of think. I think you're on the right track with that because I believe that too.
Yeah.
And I think her mind is somewhat fractured from just like the despair of losing vision.
Absolutely.
And that's why.
And her brother.
Right, and her brother.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like you said, when she sneezes, like things break in the kitchen because she doesn't fully have control of her powers because mentally she's so messed up.
Yes. All these characters that we keep seeing, they're like, I'm sure they're probably like doctors and nurses.
Yeah.
Or something that's in the facility where she is or something like that. But I can't wait to watch this new episode that came out yesterday.
I can't either. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just because I want to know more. Like,
I'm so glad that I've stuck with it because after the first episode, I was like, man, I don't know if they're going to do this for 6 episodes or whatever.
But Disney Plus is doing it right, man. They're not dropping it all at once.
They're smart because
they're keeping viewers.
If they dumped it all, you could watch it and then you could just cut your subscription.
Exactly. And like, they're not, people aren't doing that with Mandalorian. They're like sticking with it and watching every week or whatever. And so I think it's good.
So my only complaint with that, and then we can move on, with WandaVision, is the 9 minutes of end credits. We don't need that many credits for a TV show, man.
I know. What?
Because when I watched the first episode and I paused it, because like I told you, sometimes I just pause a show or movie that I'm watching to see how much time is left.
I do it too.
And I was like, we have 10 minutes left. And after 60 seconds, it goes it fades out to that those TV screens.
Yeah.
And then I see we have 9 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
Boy, I wanted to just break my
Come
TV.
on. Yeah, come on.
I mean, they look cool the first time you watch it, visually, because you can tell there was a lot of effort involved in putting those graphics together for the end credits.
Right.
But I don't want to see that for 6, 8 episodes. So we don't want to get far off on too many tangents. We do, this. Oh, you said this is going to be like our supreme extravaganza mega episode.
We have like so many names for this episode.
Yeah, but I mean, the main focus is to talk about these two prominent characters in Black history and just American history in general.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's just continue to move forward.
Both movies include Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King's not so much in Malcolm X.
Right.
And vice versa. Like Malcolm X makes an appearance in Selma.
It's a pivotal scene, though.
It's a pivotal scene, absolutely, because he's talking to. Is her name
Coretta?
Coretta.
But Malcolm calls her. I mean, not Malcolm. Martin calls her Corey.
That's right.
So again, I listen with subtitles. I watch the subtitles, and it's Corey, Corrie.
Yeah.
But her full name obviously is Coretta Scott King. Yeah.
Man, I want to talk about something that I did not know about in history, and maybe nobody knew about this: the FBI's involvement with all of this.
You didn't know?
I did not know that.
With either of these characters?
Well,
I mean people.
With Malcolm X, because of how violent he was and his past, I guess he has more of a like drug-ridden gangster type.
I mean,
past.
that's how he started out.
Exactly.
I mean,
if you wanted to sum up Malcolm X movie in one phrase, it would be character development.
For sure.
Because his character and Denzel did such a powerful performance. It's so good.
It's one of those where you get to a point where you're like, I'm not watching Denzel, I'm watching Malcolm X.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great way to say that. His character development was so strong and so good and very well portrayed.
I don't think we would have got all of that if this movie hadn't been 3 hours and 22 minutes long.
Yeah.
I remember when I finally got to a point where I was going to watch this.
Yeah.
And it was already late. It was probably 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But I said, I have to watch it because I know we're going to record.
Right.
And I didn't want to take a break in between because for me, it killed momentum. Which is why I'm also glad that Zack Snyder's not doing 4 episodes for Justice League and all 1 4-hour movie.
Yeah. Which is coming very soon.
Yeah, I think March 18th, the day before Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh my god.
So I see what they did there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Competition.
And it got to a point where it's like, I'm not even worried about what time it is or the sleep that I'm losing because I'm so entranced in this guy's story.
Yep.
And like you said, the transformation is huge in this movie.
Yep.
And like I said, we don't get that if the movie's shorter than this.
Exactly. He definitely could not have done this in 90 minutes.
No.
Or even 2 hours.
Right.
I do think that the backstory kind of took a little while. The stuff with Delroy.
Yeah.
It could have gone a little bit quicker. Mm-hmm. I know, man. I know what he was setting up and like why he lengthened it or whatever. But that's like my only critique about Malcolm X.
I mean, the movie could have been split in 2 parts, I guess, if you think about, because you could have like the pre-incarceration.
Yep.
And then incarceration and everything after.
Yep. The incarceration was so good, and like that guy that he meets.
Baines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about these scenes?
It's one of my favorite. I can't really say favorite scene because it's a favorite chunk of the film.
Yeah.
Is when he's incarcerated because at this point he's just Malcolm White. He still has his slave name White.
Yeah. He's like, what's your name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your number? Because they're all giving out their numbers.
That's right.
And he's just so defiant. He's like, you're not gonna break me.
So defiant.
I'm not gonna tell you.
Right.
And they throw him in, I guess, the holes, what they call it.
Yep.
We don't know how long he's in there. Solitary
Yep.
confinement.
Yep.
We don't know how long he's in there.
That shot with the light coming in and the smoke. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And the sound effect that they use.
The sound effect of it.
Yeah.
There's something about when you hear bars closed, like in jail and movies, it's just like, I'd never want to go there.
No.
Like it sounds like you are locked in.
It sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cement walls and floors and it's hard.
You think cold, you think hard.
Yeah. Dusty.
Dusty. Like scary because like who else is in there with you?
Exactly.
I mean, people that are murdered and whatever, raped or whatever, and it's
one of those things where you think, okay, as an inmate, like a fresh inmate going in, what's scarier, being in Gen Pop or being put in solitary confinement for a number of days?
Alone with yourself.
No lights. It just your thoughts.
Your brain.
I would go crazy.
I would go
mentally.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, like, this is a terrible comparison, but like, I stayed at home when I had COVID for 10 days. I didn't go anywhere, and I know 10 days is not a long.
But it's relevant.
I really felt when he was in prison in solitary, I really felt that because I had just experienced it
That isolation?
in a very different way, but still.
Right.
You know,
it's the feeling of isolation,
exactly.
confinement. You
Yep.
can't reach out to the outside world.
Didn't even go outside. Like
Yeah.
I didn't.
I mean, at least you had social media. But even then, to the point, it's like you're a social
Detached,
being like I am.
Yeah.
So that had to be tough for you to just. I'm on my phone. That's it. I watch TV. That's it.
It was definitely tough.
Yeah.
Yep. Didn't even go outside when it snowed. Like, you know, there's that 2 days of snow on the ground and everybody's outside. I'm just looking at pictures and stuff. I was sitting inside.
Right.
Yeah.
That crazy. Had to be tough. So then, like I said, we don't know how long he's actually in confinement, solitary, but we know he's in there long enough. And eventually the guard asks, "What's your number?"
Yeah.
And he kind of starts to say it, but he can't because he's just weak. He hasn't eaten much.
Yeah.
Very
super
malnourished.
Weak. Didn't he refuse water or food that one time and they made him stand there longer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was just defiant, and then eventually he kind of gives in. He kind of breaks a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like the prison system was designed for. We talked about Ava DuVernay's 13th documentary.
Right.
And I feel like just the thought of prison, just in general, is to break somebody's will.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Man, so talking about his character development some more. He was so prideful and he was so full of himself.
Yeah.
And like, you know, pre-incarceration, prideful. Incarceration, still very prideful, but you can see it starting to chip away.
Yeah.
And his character starting to change. And then post-incarceration, where he's more religious.
Yeah.
His whole countenance. Not to mention his physical appearance. Like, you know, his haircut changed. I love how they talked about the hair so much.
Yeah.
And showed that whole culture of the barbershop and the stuff that they put in his hair and how it burned. Like, oh, come on. That one time when the water wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Right before they get arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yep. That's crazy.
So
I also didn't know that Spike Lee was in the movie. Like, he plays a very big role.
yeah, he's kind of shorty. Yeah.
Shorty, yeah.
Well, it's quick sidebar. When I was in high school, I had people call me shorty.
Really?
And it wasn't like a derogatory, like, oh, look at the short guy. It's like...
you didn't look like him or anything, so...
No, it's just like another nickname.
Yeah.
So, another nickname.
Shorty.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I mean, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Because you are short.
Yeah.
And we make fun of it all the time.
Yeah, there's a girl I used to go to high school with.
Yeah.
And she was, like, shorter than me, so we would call each other shorty.
Okay.
And then, like, all throughout, like, life after high school, whenever we see each other in town, like, oh, shorty, what's up?
Yeah.
I won't give her a name, but she used to work at... what's that barbecue place? Stanley's.
Oh, cool.
You definitely know her. You should have the same last name.
Okay, cool.
So that's all. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to her because she's cool. What's up, shorty?
What's up, shorty?
But yeah, there's a scene in Spike Lee. Yeah, he's prominent in the film.
Big time. Yeah.
And after
He cracks
jail,
me up, too.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
So when they first show him the way he's like got the walk and he's like his arms going this way.
That whole thing is,
And then you can see when he and Denzel are walking side by side, Denzel's trying to get that same swag and this and
he's
that.
like, no, do it like this. Like, you showed him,
Clowns.
Yeah.
I watched it with my cousin years ago, and my cousin was like, look at these clowns.
Yeah. So that was like the 40s? Late 40s, maybe?
Yeah.
Because it was Zoot Suits, right? Which is big in the 40s and 50s.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I like that time. The swing music and the dancing, I love that whole sequence.
I love that scene too because I mean, there's a couple of quick clips where you see a few white people in the crowd.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, shout out to my white sisters and brothers that can dance, you know?
I do want to say that my critique about that scene and kind of the whole movie, especially when there's like live music in that one scene, the swing band or whatever, the ADR and the sound of the scene wasn't completely mixed perfectly. It seemed like their voices were way louder than they should have been. So just my critique on that sound mixing in that scene.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
And fun fact, this is kind of stepping on your part of the show because you're the trivia guy.
Oh.
One of the jazz musicians was Terrence Blanchard.
Oh, nice. The guy who scored the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Which he consistently uses, right?
Yeah.
He did Inside Man.
Inside Man, yep. And Delroy Lindo, you know.
Yep.
Again, we talked about him. But to kind of go back to like the whole prison segment of the film, there's that scene where Baines is kind of like having a meeting with some of the other inmates.
Yep.
And I think it's like the laundry room, and one of the guards walks in and kind of breaks it up.
Yep.
I think he's telling those inmates to go to the yard.
Okay.
And Baines stays, and then the guard looks at Malcolm, and Malcolm's like, I'll stay too. And I think in that moment,
yes, I remember the scene.
He's like, I want to talk to this guy because he starts to notice something different about how Baines.
He even says that. He was like, you're different.
Yeah, you don't care if the guards hear how you speak, and you never this and this and that.
Right.
And that's when Malcolm's curiosity, I think, got the best of him.
Yep.
And Baines started to kind of, school him on some things.
Literally school him. Like, he took him to the library, and they're like looking at the dictionary.
Bro, that scene.
He's like, read the dictionary.
When he's talking, he's like, read what
Aardvark.
Definition of white and black, and then aardvark. He's like, start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because and I've noticed this too. Like when you look up definitions of words, like the first couple of explanations, like a very surface.
Yep.
And the further you dig into the explanation, you get like more specific.
Absolutely.
Into the meaning of the word.
Yep.
And when they start showing, and the camera actually shows you the words in the dictionary in that movie.
Yep.
In that scene. And I thought, man, that is insane.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if they like what kind of lenses they used and how they shot that, or if they made like a larger dictionary just for those close-up shots.
Right.
Because that would be difficult to shoot.
Yeah.
Like, and light, because that's a very difficult way to do that. I like how that Denzel. That like Malcolm X has street smarts.
Right.
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 However, he did not have book smarts, and so they sit down and he just goes through the dictionary, and he's so patient.
Baines.
Yeah. He's so patient with him and just helps him, guides him along. And then kind of starts introducing
the nation of his Muslim religion.
Is it Muhammad?
Yeah, Elijah. So they always refer to him as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of confusing if you're not familiar with that name, or I guess like just the Muslim culture.
Yep.
Because it's almost the way they describe Elijah Muhammad in the movie is like a mythic figure. They talk about he's a prophet sent by Allah to lead the people to the promised land, basically.
Yeah.
And so it almost sounds like a mythic figure. And then Malcolm talks about that scene when he's in a jail cell where he has the spiritual experience.
It shows up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's not until after he gets out. And that scene when he gets out and meets him in person for the first time, he's like, it's like, I guess if you compare it to meeting God.
Yeah.
Like he's just like.
And he's just.
Yes.
Oh, it was so powerful. His tears streaming down his face, and the way that he spoke to Malcolm X. And that was a great scene.
So it was hard to watch that, like, because you get to later in the film and you kind of know that. So it's hard to watch that scene because as you get later to the film, like certain events happen, and then eventually Malcolm X is kind of shunned by the Nation of Islam for some things. So you talk about the differences between when he first meets Elijah Muhammad and how humble he is, and how accepting Elijah Muhammad is of this guy who basically was, a criminal, street thug, drug dealer, all this and that, to what he became. It's hard to see that betrayal. And he even talked about it. He's like, I felt betrayed by, I gave you guys everything, and I bought into all this, and all I want to do is just uplift you, and that's why I always say my speeches I start with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah.
It's all about him, and it was never about self. After that.
Yep. Very selfless.
Right.
Which is something that I really strive for.
Yeah. So, and I just think, man, just as a man, as a figure, I think Malcolm just became a victim of circumstance, man.
Yep.
I really do.
Yeah.
Because there's a very pivotal moment that, to me, kicks off the third act, where he starts to hear rumors that Elijah Muhammad fathered children with two very young women.
Yep.
Which is it's a big no-no in the Muslim religion.
Absolutely.
Because earlier in the film they talk about, what the perfect wife is for, Muslim men.
Yeah.
Half your age plus 7. Which is interesting because we talk about that sometimes. Half your age plus 7. Have to be a certain height compared to the man's height. Elijah Muhammad's telling Malcolm X, well, can she cook? Can she clean? Can she raise children?
Yeah. It's more like a servant master type relationship.
Yeah. So then when Malcolm's heard these rumors, he seeks these women out. And that's when you start to hear the truth, because they tell him, well, they've actually been talking about, silencing you.
Yeah.
And to me, that's when the whole third act kicks off, and you start to see these tragic events unfold. And there's a scene where, towards the end, Malcolm's driving to the Audubon Ballroom, where he makes his final speech, or his final place. And there's a Sam Cooke song that plays, "The Change Is Gonna Come," and
love Sam Cooke. Yeah.
I lost it, man.
Yeah.
In that scene, because the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment he knows it's coming for him. Like
Absolutely.
he's gonna get killed, and he's being followed. And there's a car on his right, out of focus. But you can see the guy keeps turning his head,
Yep.
and he's being followed. And he's separated from his family, which is probably where he really wants to be more than anywhere else. But he realizes his fight isn't, like you said, selfless. It's not about him.
Yeah.
It's about reaching other people.
The cause.
It's about the cause, yeah. He knew the fight was more important than him. And Martin Luther King makes a similar speech in Selma.
Yep. And the similarities are the same. Like if you look at how Malcolm X was away from his family, and he would write her in Selma, and she was standing, the kids are all eating at dinner, and she's reading that letter, and he's like, I wish I could be with you.
Right.
In so many words. Man, so just, selflessness, they're both...
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Selflessness, they're both fighting for their cause.
Yep.
They both believe in the cause more than they believe in themselves. And it's bigger than their families.
So it's interesting, the differences in the two men. Like there was obviously, Martin was nonviolent, peaceful approach to, because his fight was...
More intelligent.
Right. And his fight was more for racial equality.
Right.
And the whole...
And for voting.
And for voting was the whole basis for the march,
Right.
For voting rights. And then Malcolm was like, we don't even need white people for anything. Let's just cut ourselves off from them. There's that one scene where they're walking into, it looks like some sort of judicial building.
Yeah.
Or it's a college campus.
Yep.
And this white girl walks up and she's like, hey, I just want to say I apologize for anything my ancestors have done to yours and black people.
Yeah.
What can I do to get involved and da-da-da. And Malcolm says nothing.
Yeah.
He's like, nothing. There's nothing you can do. And he says it with a smile, and it's like a very dismissive smile.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you, little white girl, walk up to me and think you want to be a part of this because it's not about you.
Yeah.
Like, I felt bad for her because
she genuinely wanted to to help or whatever. Yeah.
Because I would never do that to any white person off the street that approached me and was like, hey, Mike, or hey, I don't even know you, but
I'm on your side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to know more. Help me help you, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would never do that.
I mean, he's been so burned.
Yeah.
And so much bitterness in him towards white people.
Well, there's one conversation he and Baines have in jail.
Yeah.
Where they think about all the white people you've encountered, and he starts to think back to the judge.
Yep.
And the social worker who's played by what's her name from Indiana Jones?
Oh, Karen Allen.
Karen Allen, yeah. Very small but pivotal role, in his story,
very
in his
small
life.
role, yeah.
And the judge, even Sophia, the white girlfriend, he initially takes on, which I was confused about that scene. I want to know your thoughts on that scene where I guess him and Sophia hooked up.
Yeah.
And it's the next morning, and she's cooking him breakfast, and she gives him the plate, and he's like...
And he's laying in bed?
Yeah.
That scene was very hard to watch.
Yeah.
Like where he's like, kiss my foot, and he's like, feed me.
Yeah.
And he has this like stone cold look. I don't know why he treated her like that.
And I mean, I guess there's that line he says where he's like, well, are you going to be just like all those other white women and scream rape at the first chance you get?
Yeah.
And she was like trying to assure him no.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you will. You're just like all the rest of them.
He didn't trust her, yeah.
Right. And I guess that just comes from, again, we're talking about...
It's womanizing. He was very womanizing.
A little bit of that because, I mean, he wasn't a great person before jail, obviously. And also I think the time period, we're talking about 40s and 50s where there was still, black versus white.
Well, that, and there's still, like, womanizing was big.
Oh, yeah.
It was, like, popular, in the 40s and 50s.
Absolutely.
Like a normal thing. And, he did a lot of cocaine. It was interesting how they were, like, both with white women. And I guess I don't understand that. Like, I'm not against it.
Right.
I'm not against interracial relationships. But it was a big deal for this movie, you know?
And like you said...
And I guess based on history.
And based on history.
Yeah.
But like you said, like I was even uncomfortable watching that scene.
It was
like
an uncomfortable scene.
Especially when he said, kiss my foot.
Yeah. Well, I don't like feet.
Neither do I.
So that was gross for me.
Yeah.
Plus, like, I'm used to seeing, like, a Denzel that's different than that,
you
know? So I did not like that part of the movie at all.
A little bit more honorable.
Yeah.
Normally how we see him.
He was being a jerk.
I mean, he was. Yeah. Very misogynistic, very demeaning to her.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
So, and then, of course, they had that scene after they get caught. Like you talk about the water not running, so you couldn't get that stuff washed out. I can't remember what they call that. There's a specific word for that.
The white cream or whatever?
Yeah. It'll come to me maybe later on, but there's a word for it.
Okay.
And they get arrested, and then they show the two white girls, and then, Shorty and Malcolm. I say the two white girls, Sophia and the other girl. I can't remember the other girl's name.
Yeah.
She wasn't like a bitch. I don't think she had any lines.
Yeah.
But then it's the Malcolm's VO. And he's talking about, well, they only got 2 years in probation, got out early.
Yeah.
And because they're white, and we got, the judge is laying out the sentences.
14, was it 14 or 18 counts?
Yeah.
He just kept
8 to 10 years on count one.
And I guess I didn't know or remember this from history that black people couldn't date white people.
I mean, it's like an unspoken. I don't know if it was actually ever a law.
Well, they got.
Well, I mean,
the judges
were racist back then too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
White judges are gonna be racist. Yep. They're gonna racist.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But it's funny because as he's giving out those sentences, 8 to 10 years on count one, 8 to 10 years on count two,
Yeah.
And you see Shorty kind of break down because he never stops, and Malcolm kind of smiles.
Yeah.
Almost like in defiant disgust.
Yeah.
And his VO, he's like, Shorty didn't understand what concurrent meant. You
Right.
know. But still, 8 to 10 years in jail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend one day. Have you ever seen those reality shows where they take the troubled youth to jail,
Yep.
to prisons?
Yep.
It's I get frightened watching that.
Like in lockup or whatever.
Yeah. So.
Yep. I know a guy that was actually on one of those shows.
For real?
Yeah, from Tyler. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Should we say his name now?
No. Let's talk about 1992.
Okay.
And what happened? What was going on then?
So a lot of the biggest movies in 1992. There's a big list here too, but not quite as big as in Selma's 2014.
Yeah.
Aladdin, the animated movie,
Huge
which
movie.
is really good.
Yeah.
Probably my number 2 favorite Disney film behind Lion King.
Really good. Yeah.
Batman Returns, the sequel.
Ooh, I love that one.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was his name?
Max Schreck.
Shrek.
Yeah.
I was going to say Max Fleck, but it's not Fleck.
I was gonna say Max Payne. That's not.
It's a horrible
Mark
movie
Wahlberg.
too. Right.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon 3.
Oh yeah.
A Few Good Men, which is one of my favorites. Sister Act. Love that movie. Hilarious. Sister
That movie's
Act.
so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bodyguard. You ever see The Bodyguard?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
That song, man. I mean.
I was. So I was dating.
Story time.
92. I was dating. I was in 6th grade.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was dating a girl in 8th grade. And she, for Valentine's Day, she bought me that soundtrack on cassette tape.
Oh, she loved you.
Yeah.
If a girl buys you that soundtrack,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That relationship didn't last very long.
It's middle school. Most
It's middle
don't.
school.
Yeah, she's going to high school next year.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. You know in youth group when everybody dates everybody else.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Then the pastor comes in. If you guys ever need some counseling, fam, we're 12.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 12. She's 14.
Yeah, I can't even spell counseling.
Right, exactly, yeah. And she's your daughter, so no.
Yeah, right.
It's always the preacher's daughter.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
Wayne's World,
Oh yeah, great movie.
A League of Their Own, Unforgiven. I'll just bring these off. Under Siege, we've talked about a couple of
These
times.
are all great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patriot Games, White Man Can't Jump, which I really want to cover with you, even though you don't do sports.
Is that Spike Lee?
No, I don't know who the director is. Not Spike
okay,
Lee.
okay.
It is Wesley Snipes, though.
But it's Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Rosie Perez, shout out to her.
Oh yeah.
Last of the Mohicans, Michael Mann. Boomerang with Eddie Murphy. Have you seen that?
I have seen that.
Yeah, it's actually a really good one,
It was
too.
funny, yeah. Or funny moments.
Yeah, The Mighty Ducks,
Yeah.
which is a classic.
Yep. That series is about to start. They dropped a trailer this week.
Oh, the trailer's out?
Yep.
I didn't see it yet. Okay,
Yep.
I heard about it. It's like a Bombay story, though, right? Like, isn't it about Coach Bombay? That's what I heard it was.
It is ish.
Okay.
They're like starting a new team.
Oh,
and
okay.
they need a coach. So kinda.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I hope we get a Charlie Conway.
I don't know if it's
cameo.
a prequel or if it's a sequel series.
Yeah,
I don't know because he's older.
was
Like
like, has
Emilio
anybody
Estevez
seen him in 20
is older.
years?
He's got like a little mustache or whatever.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh, so he's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. My Cousin Vinny, we talked about that a couple of times because
Oh,
we talked about
great.
Joe Pesci.
Yeah, Joe Pesci's role.
Honeymoon in Vegas, one of my Nicolas Cage favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to see that again. I don't remember that one so
Yeah,
much.
it's been a while for me too.
Yeah.
Three Ninjas. Did you ever see Three Ninjas?
Three Ninjas, dude. And the sequel, Kick Back. Yeah.
I never saw the sequel.
Dude, watch those a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And Son of a Woman.
Oh, yeah.
With Al Pacino,
Al Pacino,
and,
yeah. Kim Basinger?
Yeah, but who's the young Chris O'Donnell?
Oh, yeah.
Young Chris O'Donnell.
Yep.
So that's the
Which is kind of oh, never mind. He was in Batman and Robin.
Batman Robin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Son of a Woman is the year that Pacino beat Washington for Best Actor at the Oscars.
Oh,
So it was
okay.
his portrayal as the blind,
Yeah.
blind lawyer.
Yeah.
Very believable as a blind guy.
Okay.
Did I think he deserved to be
I remember
Denzel?
seeing
I
that.
don't know.
I remember seeing it, but I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
been a while for me too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's wraps
Cool.
up 1992
92.
pretty much. Yeah.
Cool.
So big year, big movies.
Yeah.
We talked about before already when Baines teaches Malcolm X the difference between white and black in the dictionary.
Yep.
So and we talked about this a little bit. We touched on before when Malcolm and Betty, who ends up being his wife later on, are discussing the differences of marriage juxtaposed with when Muhammad and Malcolm discuss the traits that qualify a woman for marriage. I just like that scene because it's just the differences between the two.
Right.
Because Betty is like a college educator for black women and this and that. And so she's obviously enamored with Malcolm X. From the get-go, you can kind of tell. And so they're kind of having this little cat and mouse chase. And I think Malcolm kind of knows what she's trying to do.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, they keep intersplicing scenes where Malcolm's listening to Muhammad break down the qualifications of a woman to, be taken as a wife.
Yeah.
This scene. When Malcolm goes to the police station and demands to see Brother Johnson, that scene to me is just super powerful.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I'm not leaving until I get what I want, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then eventually they, what happens? How does that, I forget. He's shot.
Yeah.
And so then he's taken to the hospital. And so there's that whole scene. This is not favorite. This is a favorite scene. So there's that whole scene where Malcolm and his crew start walking to the hospital. And then they just keep showing different people. They watch what's going on, other black people, and they start joining this, I'm not going to say the word mob, they're joining this march. They don't really know what's going on, but they're like, I see a bunch of black people, I want to see where this goes.
Right.
And they go to the hospital. And the police, I guess the head of the police chief, his name is Peter, that actor, he's a big actor.
Oh, what's his name?
Peter Boyle.
Peter Boyle.
Yeah. Young Peter Boyle.
Oh, the dad from Everybody Loves Raymond?
Yes, that guy.
Yeah.
And Malcolm's like, I demand to see Brother Johnson. And Peter Boyle, I can't remember his character's name, is the police chief. He's like, you need to disperse this crowd. He's like, we'll leave if he makes it. If he doesn't, I can't control these people. They just followed me here, basically.
Yeah.
Doctor comes out, tells me it's going to be okay. And all the while this is happening, the crowd's chanting, what are they chanting? We want freedom, or we want justice, I think is what it was. We want justice. So once Malcolm gets the news that Brother Johnson's going to survive, he turns to face the crowd and puts his hand up, and the crowd stops. And then they all about face, like very militaristic.
Yeah, is this where he says, man, that's too much power for one? Yeah.
Yeah. And then he just points his finger that way, and they just start walking away. And then Peter Boyle says the line.
That's too much power for one man. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was powerful.
Yeah, it was.
That's cool.
I would have probably been one of those guys to join this crowd to see what's happening, because what else am I going to do in life?
Right.
To me, that's probably one of my favorite scenes.
The jail scenes for me, because you see so much character development in those jail scenes, and that's where those are the most powerful for me.
Right.
And then right after that, where he sees Shorty again after not seeing him for a long time, and they hug and
when he was making one of his first speeches, and he sees him in the back row. Yeah.
He's like, Shorty, is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool.
I like that he recognized his friend, even though obviously he had changed. And I think he saw his friend there. He's like, okay, I can change my friend.
Right.
And kind of bring him over to the light, so to speak. Because they go to that, I guess that diner after and they have the conversation.
Yep.
And he's just like, man, this is crazy talk. What you're talking about?
Yeah.
Shorty's talking about this to Malcolm. And is that the last time we see? I think it's the last time we see Shorty in the movie.
Yeah, he doesn't continue.
Yeah. I always wanted to know what happened to him after that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So to kind of jump ahead, that's one of the characters I like to see,
in something else?
Yeah, what happens after that.
Because we don't see, he's in a lot of the first 90 minutes of the movie, but we don't. He's in a lot of the first 90 minutes of the movie, but you don't see him predominantly. He's like a secondary character, and we don't know much of his backstory.
Right.
So that's what also wants me to choose a character like that, because we don't know so much. We want to know more about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are those all your favorite scenes for the most part?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That scene later when he's doing his is it pilgrimage, or when he's
to Mecca, where he goes to Mecca?
Yeah, that traveling scene, that was a gigantic production. Filming that must have been crazy, because he's in the desert with all the white clothing and all that stuff.
Right.
It was huge.
Well, Spike Lee fought to actually go there and shoot.
Include that, yeah.
Yeah, which is not, they don't normally allow that over there. And so Warner Brothers, who distributed the film, was like, well, we're just going to shoot this. I forgot, there's a place somewhere in America they were going to shoot it. And Spike was like, no. Spike was adamant about doing this his way.
Legit.
It's got to be, because
I love that.
He wasn't threatened, but basically the Nation of Islam was like, if you're going to do this, you better do it right.
Yep. Do it justice.
Yeah, do it justice, right.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't the first choice to direct. It was a Jewish guy.
Yeah, so the history of how this movie of Malcolm X was made started in the 60s. Did you know that?
I don't think I did.
So there was all these different directors attached, and it kept getting shelved, it kept getting dropped, and then Spike Lee like kind of came upon it and decided to take it on, and he basically based this whole movie on the biography of Malcolm X.
Okay.
Yep. And I don't know if it was an autobiography or if it was actually just recount or whatever.
I know the author was like Malcolm and also Alex Haley.
Yeah.
They kind of collaborated on the story.
Yeah.
And then it got adapted by a producer. And
Yep.
Changed hands.
Exactly. It's been worked on and changed hands since the 60s. So like late 60s after everything happened.
Right.
Yeah. So something super interesting to me, and I love it when actors do this because the actor really believes in the material. Denzel put up his salary to get this film made.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I don't even know if he took anything away from this movie at all.
He might not have.
In fact, didn't he get an award?
Well,
for this?
he was a nominee for Best Actor. Like I said, Al Pacino.
Yeah, that's right.
Beat him, but
yep.
To me, I think for him, I think maybe he thought just the privilege to be able to play
such a predominant character in his culture. Yes.
Yeah, that to him was probably more value than any money they would have paid him.
Yeah.
Spike Lee put up 2 of his $3 million to help boost the budget because Warner Brothers was like, we're not going to give you more money, da-da-da.
I can't. What was the budget for this?
It was 35.
35
Started
million?
at 25. And then it got taken away.
Okay.
Hold on a second, because I got that in here too. So it started at 25 when Warner Brothers was heavily involved, and they said, we're not giving you any more money. You talked about Denzel gave up his fee or his payment. Salary. Spike gave up 2/3 of his.
Yeah.
And then the completion bond company stepped in and seized control of the film, saying it couldn't be longer than 2 hours and 15 minutes. And this happened during post-production.
Yeah. In 92, there weren't a lot of movies that were over 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like Heat was 94.
That was 95.
95.
Yeah.
Okay. Which was 4 hours.
Right.
Right. There was a lot of like epic movies like
Godfather.
Exactly. That are a little bit longer. So I guess it was kind of common, but a 3 hour and 22-minute movie, that's crazy.
It was longer than the...
and a biography movie, too.
Right.
Yeah.
It was longer than the trip on the SS Minnow.
That's hilarious.
And I thought about that when I saw the running time. I was like, oh, this is longer than the trip on the SS Minnow.
You literally said it to yourself.
I did. And I said it out loud.
3 hour tour.
And I sang it to myself.
Yeah,
yes.
of course you did. Yeah.
If you know Gilligan, you know.
Yeah.
So then what happens is you had a lot of prominent black figures in 1991.
Yep.
Also pitch in. You had Oprah Winfrey, who's in Selma.
Who also did that? Yeah. She in it and she produced it.
And she produced it. Yeah.
What's it? Harpo or Harper?
Yeah, Harpo. It's just Oprah backwards, which is first time I said, oh, that's easy.
That's right. Also, real fast, Brad Pitt produced.
I
Selma
noticed that too. Watching the credits.
Plan B is his company.
This is why. I didn't know that because I recognized Plan B, but I didn't know why.
It's
but Brad Pitt's okay.
Yeah.
So Plan B for Brad.
I guess.
So was Brad Plan B for Angelina Jolie?
Is Plan A his acting career and Plan B his production company?
I get it. Plan A was Jennifer Aniston, right?
Wow.
Connecting the dots now.
Okay, you're not listening to me. Okay.
Sorry, I guess I wasn't. I was in my head.
Okay.
But yeah, so Bill Cosby, Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Janet Jackson, Prince, Tracy Chapman.
So superstars in the black community giving money for this.
Movie get
That's
done
awesome.
Because they all realized how important it was to tell the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's super important.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
What were your thoughts on, because in Selma, Malcolm X is referred to as, by Lyndon B. Johnson, I think, as militant.
I mean, I agree with him. And I like that one scene where Malcolm is talking to Coretta. Is it Coretta? And he's like, let me be the alternative. Oh yeah, I want to talk about this real fast.
Okay.
The way that Malcolm and Martin Luther King both talk, their vernacular.
Yeah.
It's so intelligent. Every word is carefully chosen, and they both speak slowly and just very with power.
Right.
You know, and confidence. I love that.
And I love that, and I love how the actors, you can tell they watched so much film and footage of both of these of these figures to get that vernacular down.
Man, David, I'm not gonna say his last name because I can't pronounce it. He must have done that because his countenance, and you've heard the MLK speech, right? It's been used in music and movies, and you've heard it a million times or whatever. And the countenance and the cadence that he would use, David nailed it.
Yeah.
Bro, and he looked like him. Like the casting of Malcolm X in Selma Denzel looked like him too.
Right.
I've seen like the like scene comparisons or historical comparisons from TV and the movie.
Right.
It's like spot on.
The only difference I think, or the biggest difference with Denzel and Malcolm is Denzel's a little bit darker and Malcolm's a little
skin
bit
tone.
lighter. Yeah.
But then he had that like goatee later in the movie and like that and those black rim
glasses, the black rim glasses.
That's what completed the look.
Same.
I mean, that's what and the hat, which was pretty popular back. The styles were popular.
You know what's crazy? There's a lot of styles back in like that older era that's kind of fly. I kind of like the way they dressed back then.
Yeah, like the suits look great, like the skinny ties and I like that. And I mean, I'm not a hat wearer, but those they look good.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
But we're talking about like fashion back then. I love that opening scene of Selma where he's trying to figure out how to get the tie.
Yes.
And
it's an ascot.
It's an ascot.
Yeah. She comes in and like helps him do it.
Yeah. And, by the way, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know her name, but I was like, oh, she's kind of nice.
Coretta?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look her up.
Nice to look at, not gonna front.
Carmen Ejogo?
Okay.
She was in a few things.
She's been in a lot. I've seen her before.
Yeah. Fantastic Beasts in 2016. A Bryan Cranston movie called Your Honor, which is like out.
It's
a
still
series?
going now. Yeah.
It's on now.
It's like one of the hottest shows on Showtime.
Yeah. True Detective.
Oh my gosh, that show.
She was in both Fantastic Beasts movies. Another Denzel movie where is that Denzel? Yeah. About the Roman J. Israel, like the debater. Is that what it is?
No, he's
what was his?
So it's Roman J. Israel Esquire.
Attorney.
Yeah, that's a great movie. It's like an independent film with Colin Farrell.
Okay, she's in that too. Yeah. So a few things, but yeah, she's very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
The cast for Selma, like the surprise appearance of Cuba Gooding Jr. and Martin Sheen
in the same scene together.
Like I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like it was so fun, and then they come. I was like, is it just a cameo? Then they come back later,
Right.
and of course it was a setup for seeing them again later.
Yeah.
But that was really cool, and I love that scene, that court scene. Whenever that gets, I love that scene. But like the reaction in the courtroom. I guess I expected like applause or like
I did too.
Like people showing happiness or nothing.
None.
Like it was a major decision was made, and you could see on Martin Luther King's very reserved,
right?
In certain times, and it was a very like reserved happiness, I guess, on his face. But that was a cool scene.
You talk about his like reserved demeanor. There's two scenes in the film. Now we're going to skip ahead to favorite scenes for Selma.
Okay.
Two of my favorite scenes are both, hold on, how do I word it? Two of my favorite scenes in Selma both show Malcolm being vulnerable. It's the first time when they're arrested.
Okay.
And he's talking to his right-hand man, and I cannot remember his name, but he's basically talking about how he's tired and he doubts the cause. Is it worth it? This and that.
Yeah. Do you mean Malcolm or Martin Luther King?
What did I say?
You said Malcolm.
I meant Martin.
You
sorry.
meant Martin.
Yeah.
Okay.
When all the protesters are locked up.
Yep.
In jail. It's that night scene in jail.
Yep.
And they're all talking.
And she visits him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just telling his right hand man, he's like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And he's like doubting the fight, like, is it worth it, and this and that. Yeah. And his right hand man is like basically encouraging him, saying this is important, trying to just build him back up. Yeah. But it's cool to see prominent leaders who we look at as strong still have those moments.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it happens again later when he goes to pick up John Lewis.
Man, what a great... I mean, I know he passed away last year.
Yeah.
Right? Natural causes?
I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like he served, I mean, like, it says all that stuff at the end. He served for like 28
years.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah.
They actually, and my dad told me this, for his funeral procession, they rode him through that bridge, Edmund Pettus.
Yeah, that's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just like it comes full circle.
Yeah, I guess Donald Trump wouldn't know that because he wasn't there.
Exactly, yeah.
Disgrace.
That guy, man.
Yeah.
Something else.
So more favorite scenes from Selma?
Yeah, there was another one, which we talked about earlier, just the second march, where the camera pans up and you see the masses of people coming up.
Beautiful shot.
It's just an amazing shot. Yeah, and it just draws a lot. It stirs a lot of emotions in you. Like, how can it not?
Yeah.
And something we talked about earlier in the pod was, how white people don't get involved if they're not educated. They don't understand what the fight really is.
Yeah.
And they would do these marches in broad daylight, because I talked about how on that bridge, like, it's the middle of the day, sun's out, it's bright.
Yeah.
Because they knew the media was there.
Yep.
And they knew that America would see it on the televisions, they'd hear about it on the radio.
Yep.
And
70 million people watched it.
Yeah. So there's that one woman who they show at the end, like 5 hours after the speech, she's murdered by a Klansman.
Yes.
Which I thought was crazy.
She was helping, like,
she was driving some of the
transport some people.
Yeah.
And she got murdered by the Klan. 5 hours after the speech. Yeah, that was terrible.
Like, I felt for anybody who was injured in this movie or involved in this in real life.
Yeah.
But I felt for her and the two religious priests that were murdered that night down the scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, the way that scene was edited, because Common was, like, delivering the news, and they cut back and forth between, like, Common telling Martin Luther King the news of the guys, and then I was like, are they dead? And he's like, in Common's like, they died, and I was like, no. It was so sad. And then the slow-mo of him, like, getting hit in the head and stuff. That guy's from the show Succession.
Oh, okay. I recognize his face.
He's also in The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey, the Guy Ritchie movie.
Right.
You haven't seen that, right?
I haven't recorded.
You haven't seen it yet, okay.
So it's on the docket.
I like his acting style. Like, he's really cool, and especially in The Gentleman, he's got a good role.
He was the pastor with the glasses, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I think they referred to him as a priest.
A priest, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they had religious leaders from all different religions when they first showed up off the bus, and they had the different, just outfits on, know.
Man, and then those two guys were talking about how powerful that day was, and he's like, he owes me a bus ticket.
Yeah.
And then these stupid rednecks.
Yeah.
I know I'm using terms that are very derogatory, but
I mean,
that's what they were.
There's derogatory terms all throughout both of these movies,
Yeah.
Because the one guy says, one thing worse than whatever, he's like, it's a nigger lover, and then boom, just like that.
The scene that made me so frustrated was when Oprah was trying to get registered to vote, and that guy was being an asshole to her.
Bro.
And she knew the stuff.
Yeah.
And, like, there's that pause. He asked her the preamble, right?
Uh-huh.
And there's that pause, and then she delivers. And he, like, cuts her off, and he's like, how many judges or whatever, and she knows the answer, and he's like, name them.
Yeah,
and there's like 68 of them or something.
No one knows, yeah.
Yeah, she can't name all of them, and he knew that.
Just was not gonna let her register,
Denied, and I was like, such an asshole.
So that was something I wrote in some notes, was that scene, I would have been in that little window fighting that guy.
Bro, that was
there's just certain things that, and I understand why, she's older, her character's older and whatnot, and I mean, she just wants to be a part of something that she has a right to do,
Yeah.
I would have been over that window fighting that guy for sure, man.
The next scene that made me so frustrated was the police brutality when they turned the lights off and they just beat people for no reason.
Yeah.
They were doing nothing wrong.
So that kind of talks to what you touched on earlier about the FBI's involvement.
Yeah.
How they knew there was going to be a night march.
Yep.
And they said, and one of the guys even said there won't be as much media around.
Yeah.
So how sneaky they were to do this stuff.
Yep.
And so.
And how J. Edgar was involved and like all that. I mean, that just seems very corrupt and like, I mean, Lyndon being in president, wasn't he sworn in after JFK got killed?
I believe so.
He was sworn in on the plane or something. That's, if I remember from history.
Because there's a scene where he's talking to Martin and he says, I've only had this position for 4 months.
Yeah. So
all this got dumped on his plate.
Also, Giovanni Ribisi.
Yeah.
I love his acting skills. Like,
I do too.
He's good.
To me, he's one of those, like, he's a chameleon. He can
exactly, man.
become anything.
Exactly. He's been in so many different roles, and he just always kills it.
Right.
And I mean, he was kind of a weasel.
Yeah.
He's the aide or whatever, presidential aide or whatever. And Tom Wilkinson, I mean, he did a good job as
he killed it as
Lyndon
the
B.
president for sure.
Yeah, and I know that, like, even though he worked with Martin Luther King to get the good things that they accomplished, but man, he seemed like such a kind of a shitty president.
I mean, he did.
You know, like,
yeah.
Just, I mean, I know that he didn't want to have anything to do with the Martin Luther King stuff because he would have lost his conservative money and all that stuff. But
when LBJ is making that speech in front of Congress about I'm going to pass this law,
yeah,
I wondered to myself, because I have a bit of a cynical brain sometimes, and I like to go there just to see what comes up. And I wondered if he was doing that to protect his political image.
Oh yeah.
Versus like really just because he. Like
think about the black vote.
Yeah, he was just defiant and wasn't gonna budge. Whenever him and Martin would meet, he was just like, no. No matter what happens, what you say, what I see and hear on TV, I'm not gonna do this. I have plenty of other things in front of this to deal with. So I wonder if he just did that because he thought, okay, Martin's not gonna stop.
Yeah.
And maybe this will protect my image.
Yeah.
Or boost my image with the black vote.
Yep.
Somehow.
Man, Tim Roth as Wallace. Great
at being evil, man.
So good. Have you seen Lie to Me? Have you seen that show?
Yes.
That's his big show that he's in,
he's good at anything he does.
True. I mean, he was big in the 90s. He was in a lot of like indie films, like Eight Heads in the Duffel Bag or whatever.
Right, Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs, like a lot of big hitters back in the 90s. And he kind of moved to TV.
Yeah.
But he was good in this role.
Yeah,
I think the casting for Selma was really...
They knocked it out the park, man, for
really
sure.
Good, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. If I was to say which one I like more, I like Selma more. And it's not because of... I mean, it's like similar content, right? It's just, I like the feeling of Selma more. It's more of a different perspective.
Well, Selma ends uplifting.
It does.
And Malcolm X does not.
Does not.
Right.
Yeah. So different perspective, different, emotions, different feelings. Because Malcolm X was pretty dark.
Yeah, and
Selma dark too, but
right.
Again, ends on a positive note.
Yeah.
So
with Malcolm X, like I found myself watching it and like rooting for him and then not rooting for him.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, let's just do our own thing and just let's stay segregated.
It's definitely a ride, emotional ride.
It is.
Yeah.
There's that scene right after they've marched to the hospital.
Yeah.
Where they're in the diner and that young black guy walks in and he wants to just meet, Malcolm.
Yeah.
And Malcolm says, let the young guy sit down.
Yeah.
And he makes that statement, the only thing I like integrated is my coffee.
Yeah.
I was like, he was just so against white people.
Yeah.
And Martin knew. Martin had the wherewithal and the vision to say, we can't get these things done without the help from white people also.
Right.
They have to join us, and this is not going to happen.
And what's frustrating about this, Mike, is that we're still here.
We are, absolutely.
These were big things that happened in the 60s. It's been how many years?
55 years.
Look where we
since
are.
That. Yeah.
Look where we are. Look what happened in 2020. Like, I'm a big supporter of Black Lives Matter.
Right.
I want to do what I can to help and end racism.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. It's
I agree.
ignorant.
I
Racism
agree.
is ignorant. I've always said racism is taught. It's not just, you don't wake up one day and just decide. I mean, like, it's a choice.
Exactly.
It's a choice.
Yeah, I agree. Because, and even being taught, you can decide if that's something you agree with or if that's something you're going to go with.
Right.
So like you said, it's 100% a choice.
It's a choice, and it's an ignorant choice.
Yeah.
It is so stupid. I have people in my life that treat black people like they're not a part of the same team.
Yeah.
And it's very disheartening. And I will never do that.
Right.
And if I have, I'm so sorry.
No, there's no need to apologize because you've never done that.
Yeah.
And even if it ever happened, I would just say, hey man, I would just pull you aside and say, hey, by the way, watch out.
I would really want you to do that.
Right.
Because I would never want to do anything that...
In the 10 years, 11 years now, 12 years, I guess, going on, like it's never happened.
Good.
So
Good.
I don't foresee that ever happening. Not even as a slip up, because you don't slip up, man. You're good. You don't, man.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, man.
like doing these types of talking pieces with you is extremely important.
Good.
For me, and it just continued, like 12 years in, like we're still finding and creating ways to strengthen our relationship.
Yeah.
By creating, we're creating stronger bonds,
Yep.
And I hope that listeners, watching this, that you guys start to really try to get involved. Find ways to get involved. Just support black businesses, restaurants, clothing stores, anything.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be afraid of the way I look.
Yeah.
There's nothing threatening about the way that I look. I shouldn't have to wake up and think if I get pulled over today could be the day. There's no reason for me to think that.
Right.
But there are days where I wake up and think, what if today is the day? Just because of the way I look.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
And so to kind of mimic Martin in that scene where he's talking to John Lewis in the car, and he's kind of doubting, he's tired and this and that. Like, I know what that feels like sometimes. Like, I'm only 40 years old.
Right.
There are people that have, come and gone in this life and transitioned who have fought this fight. Ancestors who fought this fight. And this fight is still going over 400 years now.
Martin Luther King was 39 when he died.
So is Malcolm X.
Crazy. I'm 39.
Yeah.
I'll turn 40 in April.
Yeah.
But they accomplished so much in those 2 years, or whatever, however long. However long it was.
39 is as kids you think 39 is old.
Yeah.
And now that we're here, 39, 40, it's not old. I know that
I'm glad
still
it's
feel like
not.
I have so much more to do and give, and I know you do too.
Absolutely.
So for them to have their lives cut short.
Yep. Even though they accomplished a lot.
Right.
They both died at 39.
Yeah. And you think about, so to kind of talk about the FBI aspect of it, was involved in both of their deaths. So if you want to know more, you or even listeners want to know more about Malcolm X and that whole government involvement in that, there's a documentary on Netflix called Who Killed Malcolm X?
Oh.
And it specifically pinpoints and points out specific names, both within the Nation of Islam and also on the government side that were involved in, because it was a collaboration. In the Malcolm X movie, we only see the 5 guys at the table getting their guns together.
Yeah.
One of those guys you recognize from Mandalorian, Giancarlo Esposito.
Yep.
And the other guy, Wendell Pierce, who ironically enough is in both of these movies too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The bigger guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now obviously in Malcolm X he's slimmer because he's younger.
Because it was, a long time ago.
Yeah. No runaway there.
Yeah.
And but he's the guy at the first speech kind of giving Malcolm a warning that this is coming, where he says, "Get your hands out of my pocket." To kind of cause a disturbance. Yeah. And then they do it again to cause disruption in the other guys. By the way, watching that scene where he actually gets murdered is so hard to watch.
It is difficult, yeah.
Like 2 gunshots, and then the 2 guys come up with the handguns and unload both clips on him. Yeah. It was hard to watch. And then
it's terrible.
They cut to outside, there's a commotion, and then Giancarlo gets shot in the leg. He eventually gets arrested. Yeah. Then they cut back to this aftermath inside the ballroom, and Angela Bassett's just hovering over him. She's weeping. Ugh. It's the way she does it. It's hard for my ears to hear.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
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 I love watching her. She's on the new show 911. Have you seen that show?
She's really good in that.
Yeah, that show is crazy. Yeah, it's a good show.
She got to a point where she stopped aging too.
Yeah, right. Man, black don't crack.
Black don't crack.
I want to talk about the John Legend song and the Common song that's in the closing credits.
It's the same song.
Okay.
Common just raps over it, and John Legend has the
I
chorus.
love Common's positivity. I love his music because it's always positive, right? It's like a spoken word / rap sound that
he's like a true, what you would call lyricist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the way he pronounces words and his voice, I love his voice.
Everything about it is it's prominent.
Didn't that song win?
Best song or something like that?
For the Academy Awards?
So. Yeah.
What a great song.
Great song. As soon as it comes on, of course, how can you not tear up?
And the closing credits were really cool. The pictures and how they showed their names.
Right.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a beautiful movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I love them both, but like I said, I can't 100% ride with Malcolm because he was cut white people off.
Yeah, and I mean he chooses more of the authoritative and less.
Very pro-black.
Less peaceful. Than Malcolm. Than Martin Luther King.
So what I didn't like, but I think it was done deliberate because it's Spike.
Right.
In the end, you've got the Ossie Davis, not epilogue, but it was I guess it's just his VO, his voiceover.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Malcolm saying, "By any means necessary."
Yeah.
And because in the whole film he doesn't incite riots or violence.
Right.
But I think he would have taken it there if he needed to.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously Martin, would not have.
It was way more peaceful. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I would have loved to have had gotten the two of these people in a room and just had a conversation. Although I don't think it would have worked. Malcolm would not have wanted to meet with Martin. Martin obviously would have, because Martin's inclusive.
Yeah, exactly. Martin is more of inclusive and wants to know the opinions and wants to, hear from the people, right?
So I've got some favorite lines, and they're a little bit lengthy because, this movie's got a ton of speeches from a lot of different people in it.
Right.
So one is from the president, played by Tom Wilkinson.
Tom Wilkinson.
After his meeting with George Wallace in front of Congress, he says, there is no Negro problem. There is no Negro problem. There is no Southern problem. There is only an American problem.
Yeah. And it cuts to Oprah she's like a nurse or something.
Yeah.
And she's watching it on TV.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
It was good.
Yeah.
Before the last march, at the end, King's final line, he's speaking to the character's name is John Doerr. I guess he's like one of the presidential advisors or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I recognize his face too.
Same.
And
I tried looking him up, but I couldn't find him.
Yeah, there's not much on him, I don't think. So he gets a little bit of a monologue, but he says, I'm no different than anybody else. What I love about this line is he looks outside the window, he faces the window, you can tell he's like really in his head.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm no different than anybody else. I want to live long and be happy, but I'll not be focusing on what I want today. I'm focusing on what God wants. We're here for a reason, through many, many storms. But today, the sun is shining, and I'm about to stand in its warmth alongside a lot of freedom-loving people who worked hard to get us here. I may not be with them for all the sunny days to come, but as long as there's light for them, it's worth it to me. I love that. When he said it, in the movie, I lost it. And I knew if I read that, I was going to lose it again, but like it's just, there's so much emotion driven in both of these movies.
Yeah.
And then the last line I have, as the marchers reach the Capitol at the end, you hear Martin's voiceover from his Capitol speech. And this is one little snippet of that whole speech. But with our commitment, we give birth each day to a new energy that is stronger than our strongest opposition.
Yeah.
This man was just brilliant with words. So educated.
Wordsmith.
And knew what to say and when to say it.
And how to say
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just powerful stuff. I'm not going to apologize for being emotional because...
Please don't.
This is emotional stuff.
Yes.
I hope that you guys who see this video, I'm not in pain. Like, I'm just overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thankful we got both of these men for a short period of time, for 39 years, because they mean so much to Black history and just to American history, period.
Listeners, please educate yourself. Watch these two movies. Know how you can help. Know that you can help. And this was Selma and Malcolm X.
This was the Supreme Extravaganza.
Supreme Extravaganza. And we will be covering more Black history movies during this whole month. So stick around.
Stay tuned, guys. Later.
Thanks, guys.